Welcome to My Life in Boxing with me, Gareth Davies, and him, Spencer the Omen Oliver. In this show, we talk to fighters, ex-fighters, promoters, managers, personalities from the world of boxing. And I'm delighted today to say that joining us is the one and only, the Grim Reaper he was called, even though he's a handsome devil, former WBC super middleweight champion, legend of the sport in the UK, from a great era, the one and only Robin Reid. Welcome to the show, Robin.
Thank you very much. That was some build-up, wasn't it? I was brought up in foster care, me, and my foster dad, Reid, used to like boxing. I used to get a bit of bullying and racism and whatnot at school at an early age. So my dad said, "Why don't you try boxing?" I'm looking up to Sugar Ray Leonard now. He's the same colour as me to an extent. Do you know what I mean? Everybody loves this guy, and he's using confidence, giving it all this, the bolo punch. Do you know what I mean? And I just thought, wow. Because this way we had a little bit of beef with Joe Calzaghe. He started, believe it or not, because he won the ABAs that year. Yeah. He stood up with Joe Calzaghe and raised his hand up, and he went, "This is my man for the millennium." And I remember sitting there, honest to God, yeah, and I remember sitting there thinking, embarrassed, thinking, this is my manager. He's just raised the other guy's hand. You've just told the world that your money's on the other guy. You know what? That fight gets talked more about than winning the world title.
What's your first ever memory of boxing?
Probably walking into the gym when I was about 8. I started boxing when I was 8, and it was a recreation centre as it goes. And it was a Sunday afternoon, and my dad was I was brought up in foster care, me, and my foster dad, Reid, used to like boxing. So I used to watch Friday Night Live boxing on a Friday. It was an excuse to stay up late, really. Then he says to me, "Oh, you can go boxing training if you want." So we did. It was at the recreation centre near the house. It wasn't a proper boxing gym. Like I said, we just hired the hall. I remember the coach called Steve, and I used to but I used to get a bit of bullying and racism and whatnot at school at an early age. So my dad said, "Why don't you try boxing?" Because I tried football and all the rest of it, and nobody passed me the ball. I was just a bit of a loner, and that's all.
Imagine you, Robin Reid, being bullied.
I know, not now, but back in the day, yeah.
You being bullied.
Yeah, that's just how it was.
Did it hurt you at the time?
Yeah, it did at the time, yeah, because I was the only person of colour or mixed race kid in junior school and senior school, so I caught for it. And plus, like I say, I was brought up in foster care and with a foster family, so we didn't have much money, so we didn't have the best trainers, the best tracksuits and all the rest of it. So I caught for it for that as well. So like you say, that's why I ended up going to the boxing gym, because football, nobody passed me the ball, bit of a loner. So my dad said, "Why don't you try boxing?" So I thought, yeah, I'll give it a go. Walked in the boxing gym, big afro and my rubbish trainers and my rubbish tracksuit or whatever I had on. And I remember walking in and the guy called, I can't remember his surname, yeah? But I remember the guy called Steve was a coach. And I remember he looked like, well, he reminded me of the Bionic Man. What was he called now? I can't remember.
Steve Austin.
Yeah, he reminded me of him. Anyway, walks in the gym and he says, "What's your name, kid?" And I said, "Robin," all shy and, quiet and that. He said, "Right, guys, everyone, round of applause for Robin." I'm thinking, what's that for? He said, "Just for coming to the gym. Well done, you." Do you know what I mean? It takes big old lads to walk, to walk into a boxing gym. My stepdad, foster dad, Roy, were called, he was an electrician by trade. But like you say, he used to like a drink and that. He was a nice drunk, if you get me. He was a nice drunk. Mm-hmm. But that's why he took me to the recreation centre, because he used to have my mum off early. He said, "Oh, no, I'm taking him boxing." And he'd go upstairs to the bar and he'd have a few pints, but you could watch the boxing through the window and whatnot. And then he'd take me home and that. So I used to do that every Sunday, but I loved it, I mean, I'm not just... He was into boxing anyway, don't get me wrong. Like I say, I used to watch boxing with him on a Friday night, or I think it was. And then Saturday afternoons, World of Sport, Davies, and then we used to get the American lot, the American fighters then.
Plus Big Daddy and Giant Head.
Yeah, that was the one, yeah.
We're going back to the time now.
Yeah, I don't remember that. What are you on about?
Date stamps.
Yeah, but like you say, walking into that gym, it was... It was mad because there was a bag in there. I mean, I come across a lot more confident and whatnot, but I'm still a bit like shy and quiet, believe it or not. But I was very quiet and, you know, and withdrawn back then. And I walked into this box, like you say, the boxing gym, and I just felt sort of welcomed. And do you know what I mean? And like, round of applause for walking in the gym. Do you know what I mean? Well, normally I'm getting called names from across the street. Do you know what I mean? So I just felt, you know, yeah, this will do for me. I didn't have any ideas of being, I want to be a world champion or anything at that point. But
Do you know what? It's that intimidation of first walking through those doors. But when you get in there, you're treated like as one of the family.
Exactly.
It's
you know,
insane.
what's your name? And you come, well done for coming to the gym, teach him how to skate, well done, Robin. And it was all, you know, blowing smoke up me outside, if you like. And I think that's what, you know, that's what I needed. Do you know what I mean? That's what I needed.
A couple of things from that period. I sense an emotion in you today, thinking about it and talking about it on camera, on a TV show. Is there a big emotion there? And also, who were you looking at that time once you got into boxing as kind of like...
My heroes or idols. Well, yeah, Sugar Ray Leonard. Yeah, because like you said, on Saturday afternoons is when we used to get the American lot, do you know what I mean? And that was like the world title fight. It'd be Sugar Ray Leonard, Tommy Hearns, Duran, Hagler. I was, you know, that was the era that I was brought up in.
Late 70s, early 80s.
Yeah, so Sugar Ray Leonard was my hero and Tommy Hearns. You know, when I watched them all fight each other. And I remember, because like you say, I was getting the abuse at school, because I was the only mixed race kid in the school, you know, junior school and senior school. So it was pretty bad, do you know what I mean, believe it? I mean, I know everyone's got their own story, don't get me wrong, I can only talk about what happened to me, and it wasn't the best, do you know what I mean? I was having to fight. I didn't want to fight, but I had to fight, do you know what I mean? There was kids, they were always the older kids as well, you know, waiting for you after school and all, I'll see you after school. You know, and I used to try and go the other way around, but they'd always find me, do you know what I mean? So I ended up having to have to fight in the end, but like I say, then got into the boxing.
Talk us that transition into the amateur boxing and how that materialised, Robin. Like you say, you had that trouble at the beginning.
Yeah, like you say, so I'm looking up to Sugar Ray Leonard now. I love Sugar Ray Leonard. He's got this big afro similar to mine, even though I didn't want one at the time, do you know what I mean? And I think it's this good-looking guy, and everybody loves him. Do you know what I mean? He's the same colour as me to an extent, do you know what I mean? Everybody loves this guy, and he's oozing confidence, giving it all this, the bolo punch, do you know what I mean? And I just thought, wow, I'd love to be like that. I didn't imagine it. I'm not saying I am, or I did achieve what he did. Of course I didn't. I mean, I won a world title, obviously, like he did, but I just thought, wow, this guy's amazing. You know, it's the same as me, but everybody loves him. You know, everybody hates me.
Started in the movies like him in the end.
There was, sorry?
Started in the movies like him.
Yeah, well, that's it, you know, and yeah, that's where I got a bit more confidence watching him and Tommy Hearns and whatnot. And sorry, Spence, what
yeah, no, I was saying about that transition into the amateurs, and you've done that and you were successful in that. I mean, moving on to, like, the ABAs. Talk to us a little bit about that ABAs, because you never actually won them, did you?
Never won a national title. And back in the day, you'll know as well, Spence, that, like, you had to win a national title to get in the England team.
Absolutely.
And I never won a national title. You know, I tried on, you know, Newman, I got to the schoolboys, semi-finals, Northwest finals, sorry. I got to the junior ABA semis, senior ABA quarters or semis, can't remember now, but never actually won it. And I always used to put it down to luck. I thought, I'm lucky, you know. I mean, it wasn't until I got older and I looked back on my career and I thought, it wasn't luck, you had skills. Yeah, you had ability, you had skills.
Drive,
somebody
desire,
seen it.
ambition.
Yeah, somebody seen it and tapped into it, do you know what I mean?
That's what I'm saying. How do you get that selection? Like, because, like you say, it comes from the champions. That's what it was like in our era, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I get the call up to go, you know, on the England squad. So I'm not in the team, I'm in the squad. The squad, as you know, Spence, could be 40, 30 in the squad. So it was Crystal Palace back then, was the national training centre. Oh, I remember it, I think it was 16s.
That tower block.
Yeah.
Wasn't it?
Yeah, and it was like, you know, it was like, oh, do you remember it?
Yeah.
Oh, mate, wasn't it? Yeah.
I was in the era.
Yeah. You know what I mean? And you used to get that letter, you are required.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
You are required to come down for the squad training. Oh, no, how long is it? 4 days. That's not too bad.
It was brutal.
Like jury service, like you're getting called for jury service.
From 6 o'clock in the morning, one in Spence. People don't believe me when I tell them. Till 9 o'clock at night.
9 o'clock at night, but it was so brutal.
Yeah.
It was so military, it was unbelievable.
Yeah, exactly.
You hurt, literally, from the top of your head to the bottom of your toes.
What happened after the first day you were there? Feet blistered to death. And we had to go see the physio. Yeah. Everyone was seeing the physio. Yeah. And I remember he used to say, but Vaseline on your feet Vaseline over your socks, and then Vaseline. I thought, I'm not doing that, and then ruining my trainers. But he were right, and then everybody was doing it because you could guarantee after the first day, after all the floor work and stuff we were doing, footwork, you'd have your feet would be blistered to bits. But going back to like what you said about the AB, never won a national title. Got me called up for the England squad and thought, well, I'm lucky, mate. How have I got this? Do you know what I mean? And it was, you know, somebody, one of the England coaches or scouts or whatever, must have seen me and must have, this, even though he's not, you know what it's like at amateurs as well. Sometimes you meet, I met the same kid, Lee Rimmer he was called, in the North West finals. Out of the 3 fights that we had, I thought I won one. One was a bit, he won all 3. I thought I definitely won one. One was a bit close. And he definitely got the other, do you know what I mean? But he was the kid, you know, he was the kid. So he was on the England squad and he won national titles and all that. So, like you say, he was on the squad.
Do you remember the name?
Yeah, Lee Rimmer. I'd love to know what happened to him. I don't know if he turned pro or...
But that international selection, it was all about styles, what suited that, and it proved right with you.
Yeah, exactly. So I gets the call up, goes down on the squads, and it wasn't like the bullying, but I was a little bit of an outsider, you know, because I hadn't won a national title, and all these guys knew I hadn't won a national title, and they weren't giving it, you know, name call or anything like that. I just didn't get, you know, they weren't talking to me or having a laugh with me like they were the other guys and all that. Then it gets the call up for my first international. I think it was England against America. And I remember getting the call up for that. I think it was welter or light middle, I think it was. And I remember we were all weighing in on our England trackies and all that. That was a bag of nerves and stuff, because it's my first one, innit?
Big moment.
Yeah, big moment.
Big moment.
And the American team's opposite, and they call like, weighing in at light middleweight, 71 kilos for England. Robin Reid gets on the scale, blah, blah, blah. Fighting for America, 71 kilos, Dante Middlebrook. And I thought, wow. What a name. What a name. He sounds like a star already.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? This kid walked up, he was about 6'4", big afro, cool as you like. Do you know what I mean? Got on the scales and thought, oh, now I'm fighting him. Do you know what I mean? Went out, though. Licked him up, though, do you know what I mean? And won on points, give him 2 standing counts. I think got best boxer of the night as well. It was at the Hilton in London or somewhere like that. That's big time for me, that, do you know what I mean?
That's huge.
And they're just like, do you know what I mean? Little old Reedy, there he is in the Hilton Hotel. Do you know what I mean?
But little old Reedy, bullied as a little kid, suddenly...
But still not believing in himself, though.
Still not, but is going to the 1992 Barcelona Olympics, where Oscar de la Hoya's going to win gold, where Felix Savon, 3 golds in a row, is going to win, and one of the most amazing heavyweights of all time, that Don King wanted to come across over, defect and fight Mike Tyson, if you remember. Yeah. You're there. Talk to us about getting called up for the Olympics.
The Olympics, well,
and then going to Barcelona, which was amazing as an Olympics.
Yeah, because we had to qualify. It was the first year that you had to qualify. So it wasn't the old way that, you know, with the ABA champion that year.
You're gone. You're there.
That's all gone now, do you know what I mean? You had to qualify, because this way we had a little bit of beef with Joe Calzaghe. He started, believe it or not, because of that.
Interesting.
Because he won the ABAs that year. Yeah. But I've been boxing for England for 3 years, 4 years, gold, silver, world amateur silver medal, blah, blah, blah.
Still not believing in yourself?
No, still didn't believe. I also used to put it down to luck. I know it sounds mad.
It does.
I used to put it down to luck. I just, God, if I'd have met the Cuban in the first round, I wouldn't have got to the final. Do you get me?
Let's talk about the Olympics itself, the Olympic experience, the living in the village, the representing Great Britain, the winning of a bronze medal.
Smiling because I'm looking back and I loved it.
Talk to us about the detail of it.
Yeah, it was just great. You know, when we got there, I can't remember it every moment. I just remembering, you know, you're coming out the airport and the coaches are picking us up and all the rest of us, you know, team coaches to take us back to the village, and you're getting your accreditation. It was great. Yeah. One of the best experiences of my life.
Bronze medal.
Bronze medal. And like, I'm not just saying it because we qualified a full team at 12. So it wasn't like, you know what I mean, we had a good squad out there. And I was the only one who medalled. I mean, at the time, listen, you want them all to do well, don't get me wrong. But after the event, you're a little bit like, I'm the only one who got the medal.
A little bit of trouble in the camp there as well in that 92. Was there a few of the English boys getting a little bit of trouble out there, didn't they? Was it Paul Wilson and
I can't remember. I can't. You better be. Yeah, I can't remember now. I can't remember.
Paul Ingle and stuff.
Oh
like that.
yeah. Paul Ingle.
Well, it was just before me because I'd done the '94 Commonwealth.
Yeah. You're trying to get me in trouble, aren't you?
I wanted you to bring it out, mate, that's all.
But yeah, like you say, so we've qualified a full team of 12. I was the only medalist and all that. Met Oscar de la Hoya. And his family, because they all thought I was Hispanic, so they come up to me. I was sat right near his family, his sisters, I think it was. Nearly had a date with his sister. Oh, I missed out on that one. But they were all talking in Spanish. You know
What was he like back then?
I mean, I didn't really. I spoke to him briefly.
Was he a star then already?
Yeah, you could tell. Do you know what I mean? And he had a big following back then. And like you say, we were sat by his family. You know, while we were watching the fights before I were fighting or after we were fighting or whatever. And they came over, and his sister, I think it was, and his cousin, and there was a big family of them, obviously. And they come over to speaking to me in Spanish, and I was like, no, I'm English, right? Do you know what I mean? Because you all thought it was Hispanic in that. But yeah, I mean, it didn't. I didn't name my boy Oscar after Oscar de la Hoya as such.
Yeah.
But that's when I first heard that name. And the name as well. It just sounds, it just rolls off the tongue. Oscar de la Hoya. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, and he is, and he turned out to be a superstar, great fighter. So that's why I named my lad Oscar.
So you come home. Obviously, you come home to a fanfare of sorts. You come home to a fanfare at home and locally and nationally. Then you turn pro. Tell us about that decision and how did that come about and who was it with and who was approaching you at the time?
Turning pro. So I took a year, I think it was a year off after the Olympics. In fact, you know what I did? In my head, my last fight, amateur fight, because I lost in the semi-finals to a Dutch guy in the Olympics. And I didn't want my actual last amateur fight to be a loss. So I fought for it. I had another one for England against Ireland. I called a guy called No Reid, as it goes. And that was my last thing. And I won, stopped him in the second round because I didn't want to
go out on a loss.
Yeah, on my amateur career. See what I'm saying? So then it's turning pro. So so it was about 23 when it turned pro. I went and seen them all: Barry Hearn, Mickey Duff, Frank Warren, Barry Hearn, I think it was. Yeah, I did say Barry Hearn. Barry Hearn back then, yeah. When I had a chat with them all, and Frank, I went with Frank in the end because, you know, it was the best deal at the time, and he was just massive. I mean, I know he's massive now, but he was massive then. He was the daddy, do you know what I mean? He had everyone, Nigel Benn, Eubanks, everyone, Frank Bruno, Lennox Lewis, he had them all.
One thing that I never got my head around, though, you never boxed in a British, Commonwealth, European, in those first 20 fights. What was the reason behind that?
Well, I don't know. I mean, like I said, I built up my record, 20 fights, 19 knockouts, or whatever it was. I had one draw. That was, I'll be honest, I was struggling making weight at the time. Right. Should have gone up a weight. But anyway, you know, got a draw out of that one. Like 19 knockouts or so. Sorry, Spurs, what was the question?
No, I was saying for the first 20, like you win your first 20 fights,
So,
but you haven't boxed for any sort of established
title.
So
it's the area title usually.
Go a different route, basically.
It's an area title usually, isn't it? And I'm sure, you know, I'm on to Frank all the time. Frank, when I'm fighting for the title, do you know what I mean? Whether you be I thought, no disrespect, but I thought I'm better than an area title. So I thought British, Commonwealth, European, or or international titles that you've got now. You know, and so anyway, I'm mithering. Then one day I gets the phone call from Frank. He said, right, Rob, you're sitting down. Well, you might want to sit down for this one. So I thought, oh yes, go on. I'm sat down. He said, right, I got your title fight. Happy days. Thought it was a British title. I think it was Neville Brown or someone. I was British champion at the time. No disrespect, Neville, but I thought, happy days. That'll be a good fight. He said, right. He said, I've got your world title. Oh, even better. Go on. He said, you've got to go. I was middleweight at the time. Do you know what I mean? He said, you might have to go up to super middleweight. Who's got that at the minute? And I thought, and then he goes, it's Nigel Benn. I thought, do you want me to be honest? I thought, oh no. I used to watch him. Do you know what I mean? He's a bit of a hero of mine. And do you know what I mean? Not that I you know, got very frightened and had to go to the toilet. I don't mean that, but what I'm saying is, you know, I did. I thought, oh, no, it's Nigel Benn. But once you get your head round that, no disrespect to Nigel or anything, great fighter, I loved him. Do you know what I mean? But he's the man in the weight for me then, do you know what I mean?
You're over 20 fights here.
Yeah, so you got...
So you've become you're a wrecking ball for a start. They're trying to place you. It doesn't work to have Commonwealth, European or British. Did you not even know in your mind that you were going to head straight for a world title?
No, like you say...
Was it just opportunity knocks? And as you say, 23rd fight, it's going to be Vincenzo Nardiello in Italy. Tricky fighter, very experienced, proud Italians they are as well
yeah.
there, and that with him from a reputation with a family of boxers.
Yeah.
What were you thinking when you heard from Frank that you're going to have that fight?
I thought, I mean, like I say, no disrespect to Nigel Benn, but I thought this is probably going to be harder than fighting Nigel Benn. Because, you know, if it had been fighting Nigel Benn, it'd been at Wembley, or it'd have been
a war.
It'd be over here, it'd been a war. Of course it would.
You was also in a time when you had to knock the guy out to get a draw out in it.
Exactly. And you know, people say that as a saying. It's actually for a draw.
Yeah, for a draw.
It's true. It's true, because it happened, you know, we'll talk about it in a bit. I'm hoping about the Germany one, you know, the Ocker fight. But Italy was known for bad results out there, do you know what I mean? And I remember Pat Barrett, one of my coaches as well, and, you know, my other coach, Brian Hughes, they'd been out for Pat won his European title out in Italy. Is it Calamati he knocked out with a left? And I think it was Calamati also, and he knocked him not unexpected for Pat, but for the Italians it was.
Yeah.
You know, and they pelted him with, you know, coins, and the beer came in there, and he had to usher him out there. So you've got all that to think about.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Plus he's a tricky customer, and if you watch the fight, every 2 seconds he's looking to the ref, complaining and whatever. Punched it, literally punched him in the face. No clear, you know, as clear as that.
Yeah.
Ref.
Why is he hitting me?
Innit? You hit me in the face. Come on, do you know what I mean? But that's what he was like, and he used to play to it. And the thing was as well, I dropped him a couple of times with a body shot. Yeah. And, you know, I stopped him in the end with body shots, but I dropped him a couple of times with the body shot. But because he was that, you know, he was like, oh, no, it was a low blow and all that. Now, the mistake that the referee made, he was a good referee, don't get me wrong, right? But he told him to get up. Yeah. No knockdown. Yeah, well, if he's gone down in this game, he should have given him a standing count, if you ask me. As mad as it sounds, just fizzled out, just focused on what I had to do. And what I used to do to myself is like, say, this is just a normal fight. It's not a world title fight. Just go out and perform, do what you do best, do you know what I mean? My amateur coach used to say that. He used to write me a little checklist before you go out. I can't remember them all there. Mike Rowan, he was called. And in that mad, as a professional, I remember some of the little keynotes he used to say, you know, when I was fighting for England or wherever. Just little... He knew me, and he knew, like, you know, I was quite...
Like what?
Just positive. I can't remember them, that's the thing now, but they were just little positive things. You said, if you're ever getting doubtful, just read this little list. Do you know what I mean? And, you know, I can't think of them now, but they were good.
I had one that was stuck with me. Do you know where it come from? Duncan Goodhue in the GB squad, and the Olympic squad.
They were just different sports sayings. Like,
if not now, then when? If not you, then who? And I used to use that for everything. He said that's how he won the gold medal.
Yeah, like a mantra.
Yeah, there was 10 of them, and I feel bad now, because, I mean, because like you said, not caught me off guard, but I didn't. It's not something I knew I was going to talk about, what I would have... But I can't... They were just positive points, like, you know, if you know, sayings, do you know what I mean?
That you hang on to.
Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And that's what I used to do. He used to say, like, no, this is just... It might be a big occasion. Just treat it like a normal fight. Do you know what I mean?
You did. You win, OK?
Yeah.
Didn't something change in you now that you've got the WBC World Championship belt? You've gone to Italy. As Spencer said, you needed to knock him out to get a draw, but you've got the win. You've hurt him. You've won the fight. Surely something, an epiphany that you are great at this sport.
No, as bad as it sounds, no. I mean, it did, you know, it did. It was WBC World Championship. You know what it was as well? It was just the attitude of our gym sometimes. You know what I mean? Great coach, Brian
Hughes and Barrett. Oh, Brian rest his soul.
Yeah, great coach.
Yeah.
But, he wasn't... He didn't like you. He didn't... I mean, I get it with some fighters. You know, they get too big-headed and I'm a world champion and all the rest of it. Do you know what I mean? He was old school on that side of things. Forget you're a world champion. You're still a normal fighter to me. Which I get.
Keeping you grounded.
Which I get to an extent. But there is some fighters, and I'd say I was one of them. Knowing myself now as I've got older and wiser and all that. There is fighters that you do need to blow smoke up the backside and say, you are the best thing since sliced bread. Yeah. Some fighters do need that. Yeah. And I'm saying that, I needed that. As mad as it sounds, got to come across confident. I was all right at talking when, back in the day when I did my interviews and all that. The adrenaline was flowing, so you could talk, do you know what I mean?
You were a handsome son of a bee. You always had the spiel.
Yeah, but
you looked amazing. There was energy coming off you, I recall. Obviously, I was covering your career. I think we celebrated you as a world champion. I think we were a little surprised that it come early.
Yeah.
Not early, but 23 fights. but you were suddenly in the mix.
Yeah, and I always found all my career, I was always having to prove myself. So even though I was world champion, I was just won the WBC, there was still the critics, do you know what I mean? Which I get, do you know what I mean? But when you're not used to, well, you are used to it a little bit, don't get me wrong, do you know what I mean? But like, I'm not saying I should be treated with kid gloves or anything like that, but some fighters are more sensitive than others. I'm hard as nails on the outside. You ask me, lad, yeah, he said, oh, but my daddy's soft as, you know, on the inside, you know what I mean? He cry at an advert.
We talk all the time.
You cry and I hold my hands up. I do.
Fighters
Not an
are so
advert,
sensitive.
and emotional. It's a very
and I'm not ashamed of
sport.
it. I'm not ashamed of it. I'll cry in front of me, lad. Do you know what I mean? Because he knows I'm hard as nails. Do you know what I mean? And what I want to show him is that, like, yeah, you can be tough, you can handle yourself, but there's no harm in, do you know what I mean?
I've never known a
being
fighter,
sensitive.
Never known a fighter, and it doesn't matter, even if they're on the surface of it, look, the hardest man on the planet, when you get into their soul a little bit, every single fighter is so sensitive, and I think that may be the backgrounds where they come from, the upbringing that they've had, but every fighter has that sense.
Yeah, and I think now, more so nowadays, and like I say, I'm not calling me Coach Brian, because like he was a great coach, of course he was, do you know what I mean? But like I say, he was old school, so he treated us all the same. Do you know what I mean? You're not well trained, you know what I mean? You can't walk past the mirror, you, without looking at yourself. If you were chocolate, you'd eat yourself. Do you know what I mean? But what he didn't realise was how insecure I was about myself.
You continue to defend the world title. And then,
Exactly, yeah.
And then, and I can remember the press conferences here in London with you and Joe Calzaghe arguing about who was the best looking. Do you remember?
Yeah.
You are
He brought that up.
He did.
To be
It was down
fair,
in
yeah.
Knightsbridge, if you recall.
I've got, honestly,
we were in a nightclub in Knightsbridge for that build-up. And you suddenly get the fight with Joe Calzaghe, and you were both rising together. He had more of a name at the time. He was the golden boy.
Yeah, he beat
Eubank in an
because don't forget, I just had that loss to Sugar Boy Malinga.
Yeah, to Malinga.
On my 54th defence.
Yeah.
But a lot of people didn't realise that was 5 world title fights in 12 months.
Yeah, exactly.
I won it in October
think about
'96.
Yeah.
I lost it in December '97.
Incredible.
That's 5 world titles, yeah. And I'm not going to make excuse, but I'm going to tell you why it happened then. Back in the day, my coach Brian says, no, take it like a man, blah, blah, blah. You know, you lost the fight and that's that. Just accept it, yeah? So I did. Do you know what I mean? When I'm doing the interviews and I lost the fight, the better man. The truth was, I had a chest infection when I fought Sugar Boy Malinga. I'd caught for a chest infection when third defence against Hassan Sharifi, yeah? I fought him in Widnes in that Kingsway Leisure Centre. It was about 130 degrees in there. I ended up in hospital for 3 days after that. Chest infection, dehydration, and his exhaustion. Now, that was in the October, yeah? October. Then in December, so the doctors said to me, this is your body telling you you're doing too much. Yeah. That's 44 world. It's not the fight, it's the training. What people don't read, you know, that 12-week camp. And like you're talking about that time of year as well, when it's cold and you're breathing it. And like I say, my coach was old school. So there was none of this going on running machines or cross trainers. No, we're going running. Do you know what I mean? And he'd come in the car like Rocky in the snow, this deep. It didn't matter back then. I'd ring him up, 7 o'clock. Surely we're not going in this snow, Brian.
It's the consistent training.
He'd go, have you broke your leg? No. I said, I might do if I go running out in this snow, though. But have you broke your leg? No. Have you twisted your... No. So you're at the gym in half an hour. I remember standing outside the hotel with Brian, and he's like, what do you think? Because it's all new to us, this, you got to remember. Do you know what I mean? I know he's had dealings with Frank Warren before, with Pat and whatnot, but this is new to us. He's never had a world champion before and whatnot, and we should have pulled out. Biggest mistake in my boxing career, seriously.
Really?
Biggest regret of my boxing career was not pulling out of that fight.
You were Brian's first world champion?
First world champion, yeah. Okay. And the reason for not pulling out, because we were scared. We thought if we pull out, Frank's going to go ballistic and he's not going to be... Because I was top of the bill. In London Arena, I think it was, or somewhere, I was top of the bill. But back in them days as well, there was 2 or 3 world titles on the bill. So it would have carried anyway. Do you know what I mean? Or it would have been like, you get your refund, or you keep your ticket, the fight gets postponed, you fight in a couple of months, blah, blah, blah. But I didn't. I was scared. I thought
there weren't an option to pull out back in the day.
Yeah,
that's the truth of it.
Frank's going to fall. Frank's not going to be happy. Do you know what I mean? Whether he might have been or not, I don't know to this day. Do you know what I mean? I don't know if he knows to this day why I lost. Do you know what I mean? And I went through with it. And like I say, because you know what I was thinking, I'll be honest, you know, and I don't know if I've ever told anybody this. Sugar Boy Malinga was 38 or something back then, or was he just touching 40? Something like that, yeah? I was 25, 26. Yeah. Even though I was dying, do you know what I mean? I'm coughing my lungs, you know, I was green, it was chest infection. Like I say, I thought he's 40 years old. If I can just get to, you know, hold out to the 12th round, you're in London, you're the champion, as it should, you know what I mean? You're the champion, they'll give it to you. Do you know what I mean? Just make it to the 12th round, you'll be fine. Now, think about that. That's my mentality going into a world title fight. Yeah. Yeah? Just get to the 12th round.
And you'll be all right.
You'll be all right. Come on, do you know what I mean? And that was
never happened today.
Nah, exactly. It wouldn't happen today. And like you say...
But I think people are more worldly about things today.
I mean, I say to fighters these days, you break a fingernail, you pull out.
Yeah.
Joe Calzaghe used to pull out all the time. At the time, I used to think, oh, come on, Joe. Not against me, just in fights in general. Joe Calzaghe pulled out with a bad hand or this or that or blah, blah, blah. And I used to think, come on, Joe. Joe, I can't remember what I used to call him, pull out, Calzaghe or something.
Sick note.
Yeah, but he was right. He was actually, I mean, I didn't realise he was right. If you're not 150, you know this as well. If you're not 150%, physically and mentally, you don't do it.
Yeah.
You don't go, you know what I mean? And it's nowadays, you're coaches, but you're not doing it. Even, you know what young kids are like.
It's also dangerous, Robin.
Exactly. It's not a tickling competition, is it?
Back in the day, there wasn't really that option. It was very rare. Like you say, Joe was one of those standout, and you look back on a career now and go, wow, but you go, also, you're thinking about things like fighting Sugar Boy Malinga, he's 38. When we were boxing then, I remember boxing a guy, Vincenzo Belcastro, was 36, and you think they were completely finished then.
He's
completely
old.
shot, gone. Old, but it's not old today. Like, science has improved.
And he was tricky, wasn't he? He was tricky, Malinga. He was an awkward style and that.
But for British fight fans, they remember this Newcastle event that was built up in London with you and Joe Calzaghe. You were both huge personalities.
Yeah.
It was the irresistible force against the immovable object. Talk to us about the build-up. First and only time I can really remember you trash talking.
Yeah, he didn't like me and I didn't like him.
You know, you were out in the tabloids at the time. You were covered.
But I think that's what you need as a fighter. I mean, I've got love for the guy now. Do you know what I mean? I mean, after the fight, I had love for Joe. Do you know what I'm saying? But at the time, you need to have that dislike for your opponent. You know, and it was, like you say, it stemmed from all this chat about he should have gone to the Olympics instead of me. Do you know what I mean? And he was giving it all, I'd have won gold. And I'm thinking, yeah, but Joe, you had your opportunity to go to the qualifiers like I did.
But did he light a fire under you and you go, right, I'm going to give it to him?
Well, yeah.
Was the fire lit under you?
Yeah, and then he was giving, like you say, he was giving it all, you know, at the press conference.
Yeah.
He brought it up.
He's better looking than you.
Better. You're just jealous because I'm better looking than you. And I went, oh, my God.
And you were modelling
Yeah, are we having a fight or are we walking down a catwalk, mate? Do you know what I mean? So we come out with that one. And then when we went outside to do the head-to-head, this is what got me,
I remember being there.
Yeah, because it nearly went off. So he goes. And he was a little bit taller than me, so I mean, all right to stand over.
No.
Okay, you're missing one, yeah.
Don't stand up
So anyway,
yet.
sorry. So anyway, he's a little bit taller than me. So anyway, we're doing the head-to-head, like, and he goes, and he starts crouching down a little bit like that. I said, what are you doing? He said, I'm just getting down to your level. You are a bit of a short ass, aren't you? He said, I'm going to knock you out in 4 rounds. Oh, and I thought, oh, that's what wound me up.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I said, I tell you what, keep going, going, you know, because you're shrinking down till you touch the floor. I said, because that's where you'll be going on Saturday night, the floor, mate. Yeah, and he went, yeah, and he didn't push me, but he just went, yeah, I'm going to knock you out, you something or other. Yeah, so I whispered in his ear, let me just tell you this, yeah? And this might be the scouse in me, right? So I just whispered in his ear, said, forget all the press here, mate. Do you know what I mean? I said, if you've got beef with me, I said, mate, you go for a walk on the car park now, mate. No, and I said, and he remembered that because, and I meant it at the time, I said, don't be saying you're going to knock me out in 4 rounds like I'm some muppet. Do you know what I mean? I said, I've never been dropped, I've never been wobbled or whatever, blah, blah, blah. You're saying you're going to knock me out in 4 rounds. Give me some respect, mate. Do you know what I mean? That's what got me. Do you know what I mean? But then his dad, Enzo, jumped in and he went, whoa, save it for Saturday night, guys. Do you know what I mean? And that was that. Now, years down the line, I see Joe again. And he said, he come up to me. He was fighting David Starry at the MEN. Some of our lads from Collyhurst and Mossam were on the undercard, and they were at the Hilton, not the Hilton, the big hotel in Manchester. I can't remember what it's called now.
Midland.
The Midland, that's the one, yeah. So anyway, I've gone there to see some of the lads with Brian. And Enzo's in the reception, in the lobby and that, and he goes, and I wasn't expecting this. He's gone, Robbie! I'm like, are you for real? I thought we hated each other. Really. Come over, give me a big hug and all that. I was like, all right, Enzo, how's Joe? He said, he's all right. He said, I'll get him down. I said, no. Because he'll be getting his head down, won't he? You know, that's what I like to do on fight day.
Yeah.
So I get my head down. I didn't want mithering from no one, do you know what I mean? I used to tell Brian, make sure nobody's knocking on my hotel room, ringing me hotel phone, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, and this is how much respect he had. He said, let me just go. I said, no, I don't. I said, it's fight day. Don't be getting him down. He went and got him. Joe come down. His hair was all over the place. And he went, yes, Rob. I went, yes, Joe. I said, sorry about this, mate. It was your dad who got you down.
Wow.
How are you, mate? And that was it. We were good as gold.
But let's rewind to the fight.
Yeah.
February the 13th, 1999. It's almost 26 years ago to the day.
Oh, yeah, it is, isn't it?
You two, you are both in the prime of your lives, I want to say. That's what was so good about that fight. Both in your prime, both box fighters, both with it all on the line. You want the world title back. Calzaghe's got to get you out of the way because you're the biggest threat in the UK. I know Richie Woodall's around as well, but he's a little older.
Yeah.
But you're the biggest threat. What do you remember about the actual fight yourself? Because I think I scored it by around 2-2, and many observers felt it was a split decision.
Yeah.
Many observers felt you did win that night.
Just before I got into, you know what riled me up just before the fight as well. We sat at the table now. Joe Calzaghe, I'm here. Joe Calzaghe's on the other side. Frank Warren's here. One of the American press go, who's your money on, Frank? Well, Frank managed me. He promoted Joe. He promoted the show, you know, Showtime or whatever. Not Showtime, sorry. He promoted at the time, yeah. Managed me. He stood up with Joe Calzaghe and raised his hand up. And he went, this is my man for the millennium. Because it was 1999, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And I remember sitting there, honest to God, yeah. And I remember sitting there thinking, embarrassed. Thinking, this is my manager. He's just raised the other guy's hand. Even if he thinks that, you know, he wants to put a bet on the other guy, you've just told the world that your money's on the other guy. So I was going into the fight with that sort of, you know, that riled me up as well. I thought my own manager, yeah, thinks I'm going to get, you know what I mean, thinks the other guy's going to win. So that wound me up as well. So I'm getting wound up by Joe, I'm getting wound up by Frank. And like I say, we went into that fight with a strategy, and the strategy was, and it was a great strategy from Brian, Brian Hughes and Pat Barry. They said, don't go and meet this guy. Don't meet this guy toe-to-toe and try and meet him. He's faster than you, yeah? Which I knew anyway, you know what I mean?
And he threw flurries of 5, 6, 7.
A lot more punches than you do. Don't try and meet him for that, because you'll come second best on that one. He said, what you are good at, though, is counter-punching, your timing, and whatnot. He said, wait for this guy, wait for him. When he throws them shots, he's got bad hands. Yeah, I had bad hands. I just didn't tell the world. Yeah, but Joe's telling that I've got bad hands and all that. My hands were bad, but I just didn't want to tell my possible opponents I've got bad hands, because this is what they would have done, what we did. So he said he's got bad hands. So Brian just said, keep that guard up high, though. I didn't know. I was, you know, not Mayweather style, but, you know, that low left hand.
Yeah.
The first 5 rounds, if you watch, the hands are up there. Yeah.
You just kept nailing him.
Brian just said, let him throw, and he's just going to get, bam, bam. Goes downstairs, bam, bam, yeah? Take him on the elbows, take him on the arms. Do you know what I mean? He said, you can have sore arms, don't matter, because he's going to have bad hands. Do you know what I mean? Because he told the world he's got bad hands, and I don't want to sound brutal. Do you know what I mean? But it's part of the tactics. So that's what we did for the first. He said, obviously throw some shots. Do you know what I mean? He said, let him fire away, though, yeah? When I tell you, yeah, start letting that right hand go, that bowler right hand over the top. That's what we've been working on. That's the shot for a southpaw. So he did, end of round 5. And I think they gave me 1 round at in the first 4, I think, and the rest of it, which was fine, do you know what I mean? It's a 12-round fight. A lot of fighters forget that, innit? It's a 12-round fight, yeah? And if you plan it right, I mean, you can't always go to plan, do you? You'll know, They don't always go to plan, do you know what I mean? Or you can, we're going to do this in the first half.
But you came on stronger and stronger.
That was the plan.
I remember that spearing
right
hand.
And he couldn't, I mean, like I said, I didn't know until I got home and watched it on the, you know, on telly and the commentary and all that. And like you say, this big right hand's come over, boom. And you know what the mad thing was, though? Even though it was connecting, I wasn't getting that, like, Do you know?
I know exactly.
You know, and you're like, oh, that's a pity.
Where it's sweet.
Yeah.
And you just know. Like, you know when you've hurt them. And
you might as well start
when,
walking off because, you know, they're going... I didn't... Even though it looks like they were landing, don't get me wrong, but they were just not falling short. That's the wrong word. They were just... We weren't getting that feeling that I want. You know, because no disrespect to Joe.
Timing.
He could take a punch, don't get me wrong, But I do believe if I caught him sweet, I'd have dropped him at least, do you know what I mean? Because, and I don't mean it disrespectful, Joe. It was just, that's how it felt at the time, and they were just landing, they were just there rather than all the way through.
Do you think you won it?
I'll be honest, at the time, I thought it's a close one, do you know what I mean? You know, I did. I have a funny little story for you as well. At the end of the fight, you know Michael Gomez?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So he's one of my teammates. He's watching the fight, comes running up at the end of the fight. Rob, you've got it. You've got it. Just seen the scorecards. I was like, have I? He goes, yeah, you've got it. He said, it's close, but you've got it.
Yeah.
I was like, happy days. Result come through. I went, I thought you said I got it. He went, oh, I'm dyslexic. Sorry.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
I'm dyslexic and I can't read. He said I got it the wrong way round.
But that's a fight that was out there, public perception really, on who they thought won, who they thought lost. But it was a very close fight.
Very close fight.
No one had pushed Joe like that then.
No.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not saying I won it by miles.
Does that still live with you, Rob? There's a two-part question. This one, does that still live with you? And two, is it a fight that you still fancy today?
Yes, of course. I mean, you know, you get all the haters and all the trolls. Oh, he's skin. I wasn't rich to start with, guys. Do you know what I mean? Like you say, it's not. Yeah, of course, it's a bit about the money. Don't get me wrong. Do you know what I mean? Don't get me wrong. It's not been like I've not been able to live with that decision since the fight or anything daft like that. But of course, you know what? That fight gets talked more about than winning the world title. Do you know what I mean? So that's a testament to what a great fight it was. People, when I see people in the street, oh my God, it's Reid. You beat Joe Calzaghe. Yeah, oh, what a great fight with Joe Calzaghe. I'll get that before you won the WBC World Champion, weren't you?
Yeah.
You get me?
Is it an exhibition now, though,
Well,
rather than a real...
The thing is with Joe, I just like to sit down and talk with him.
Okay.
Not beef.
Yeah.
And just say, Joe, as mates, as business partners, if you like, and just say, Joe, let's do it again. Do you know what I mean?
Put this all to bed.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, mate, I'm 53, 54 next week. I mean, I'm showing you what shape I'm in.
Yeah.
And that's...
You don't need to do it on
No,
it, mate.
I'm
Still 12 stone. Still
just
12
over 12 stone 3, 12
Still
stone
super
4.
middle.
Still super... Without even trying, do you know what I mean? I mean, I do train quite
Joe's
a bit.
probably cruiser and above,
yeah,
isn't he?
Now, if I was Joe, I think, you know what? This gives me something to focus on. Yeah, I need to shift a bit of weight. Do you know what I mean? It's like you say, he can call the shots, the rules, the regulations, the size of the gloves, the size of everything is down to him. Yeah, but what I'm saying is, and it's not about revenge, it's about Joe. Our first fight was a cracker.
Yeah.
The opportunities to do it again now, you've got this Misfit, you've got, you know...
You've got Turkey Al-Sheikh, and if you're watching Turkey...
If you're watching...
Reid wants to fight Joe Calzaghe, two British legends. There's another one to throw in the mix here as well that we're going to talk about.
Yeah, but he put an offer to Froch.
That's what I was going to bring. Froch you fought as well.
Yeah.
Obviously, you fought the great super middleweights of our lifetime. How did that fight go down? Were you over the hill at that point? Was Carl on the way up?
Yeah, he was on his way up. No disrespect. I mean, he said the same. I've seen in interviews that he's done in the past himself. He said, I know I didn't get Reid at his best. I was 36, both elbow shots a bit, hyperextension. Had to have a cortisone injection about a week before for that elbow. Didn't want to put one in that one, he said, because there'd be too much going on.
Yeah.
So I had, I mean, I'm not making... It sounds like I'm making excuses for fights that I lost.
You came and gave it while you had it.
I've retired now. I've been retired for years. Now's to tell the truth about what actually, not like, well, I lost that because everything was down to a particular...
Boxing's all down to timing.
Yeah,
and that's what it is.
Exactly.
It's a business, right?
If I'd have got beat, hands down, by a better guy or blah, 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 I can accept that. Don't get me wrong. He's a better man than me. Do you know what I mean? But... that wasn't the case in most times. It was like, I was ill or this or that or whatever.
Who would have won, because they never fought
back
each
in
other,
the day,
in your view, between Froch and Joe Calzaghe?
It is a tough one. And like you say, if I had to bet on it, and this ain't no disrespect to the fighter I'm going to name now, yeah, because I love you both guys, yeah, I'd go for Froch.
Nice.
Would you?
Yeah.
Does he hurt Joe then?
That's it, you see. I mean, it was a different time in my career, don't get me wrong, but he's a hard man. Nice guy, I love Froch. Hard man, do you know what I mean?
Caveman, throwback style.
Yeah, and if you watch it, you watch how he fights, and He's like a robot.
Kirkland
Do you know what I
Lang.
mean? Yeah, he's like a robot, and he's like, when he throws hooks, it's like, they're like robotic.
It's just so unnatural, yeah.
Exactly.
And you look at him and think, when you see him shadowboxing, he's one of them guys you look at and think, how's he been a world champion?
Yeah, I don't mean that disrespectful.
And then when he delivers, mate,
lovely mate,
listen, he go down as one of the greatest we've produced.
And when you watch it, like you're saying, when he punches, head's in the air. And,
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But what he does brilliant. He can punch.
Great chin, great puncher.
Great chin,
Great
ear.
Yeah.
Great ear.
Tall,
Solid,
rangy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that against Jermaine Taylor. Oh.
With 14 seconds
Do you
to
know what I
go.
mean? Exactly.
So let's get back
That's
to
a
your
true
life
warrior,
in
that.
boxing. Let's get back to your life. I mean, this is an amazing chat about these great fighters you inhabited the same milieu with at the time. Why did you then decide to retire? And how did this decision come about?
The first time, after it was the Froch fight, I just thought I'm 36 now. My elbows are shot, most because of injuries, to be honest. And like I say, no, I only got 5 weeks for the Cal. And when you're that age, you need a good 8 weeks, 12 weeks if possible. Do you know what I mean? 5 weeks. And it was a British title. I wanted to win. I'd won the world titles, WBC, IBF, not the IBF, sorry. IBO, WBF. I know it's not as popular as it's still a world title though, so I'd fought for all the titles. I wanted to win that British title, the Lonsdale belt. And, so I had
It's
to
always harder
Froch.
getting it on the way down than it is on the way up.
Exactly,
because your best days are then past you.
Exactly,
So you've got the young guns coming up. It's that passing the baton. It's it's about that timing.
And it was more for my little lad, Oscar. It's like the belts for him and another belt for him, if you like, that sort of thing. So, like you say, the fight came up with Carl Froch, but I took it, I took it, like you say, elbow shots a bit. But I did all right. He said I hit him the hardest he's ever been hit, apparently. He said I caught him with a big right hand, a big bolo right hand at the end of the fourth. He said he was walking to the wrong corner and everything. And I just thought, God, if only I'd known that then. Do you know what I mean?
Robin, finally, to close, obviously, you're still involved in boxing some ways. I know you're training people. What's been the highlight of looking back on your career, and what do you do in retirement? And what would you tell, from the position you're in now, a 10-year-old Robin Reid?
Believe in yourself. You are good, is what I'd be telling to myself, Believe in yourself, Ignore the haters, do you know what I mean? Back in the day, with social media, someone says something, I was like, oh my God. That's why I shied away from interviews and things like for years and years. That's why I'm glad I've done this, guys, to be honest.
Have you got any regrets, Robin?
Going back, the biggest regret was, like I say, not pulling out of that fight when I was ill, against Sugar Boy Malinga. I lost my WBC. That's probably my biggest regret. And also not being, not standing up for myself. Of course I did, do you know what I mean? But just being a bit of a yes man with promoters and managers, and, agreeing to, but I'm worth more than that, am I? No? Oh, okay then. Do you get me? Sure. And I'd be telling a young 10-year-old, believe in yourself a bit more, and, do you know what I mean? Be around people who believe in you as well. My family did, and coaches and that, don't get me wrong, but like you say, with one of my coaches, he was just old school.
Surround yourself with positive
people. So his put-downs, they weren't personal, or he was just old school. But that hurt me more than that did me more bad than good, if you get what I mean.
Robin, it's been brilliant listening to your life in boxing. Absolutely fascinating. Can't believe you didn't believe in yourself all that time. You're an amazing personality and fighter. You've been watching My Life in Boxing with me, Gareth Davies, and him, Spencer the Omen Oliver. We will be back with another episode soon.